Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back. I am very, very sorry that we missed out on last week due to technology issues on my end. It doesn't ever happen on my end, but it happened on my end, and I am truly, truly sorry. But we are back once again. I have with me two stunners, Nick, Gary. How are we, gentlemen?
Good to be back, boys. Good to be back. All good.
So, it was just me and Sam last week when we had some tech issues. It's been a good couple of weeks since I've seen you both. Lots of football to get through. We are primarily going to focus on, this is our week 4.5. I'm going to call all these episodes throughout the season are 0.5s because we're doing one in the middle.
Half a week.
So 4.5, we're going to, review week 4, preview week 5, as we have been doing for the last few weeks. But more importantly, I also want to say there's a great little milestone for us. This is episode 20 officially.
Wow.
Last week should have been episode 20. This is now episode 20.
This is episode 20. This little thing has got 20 legs already.
20. So very appreciative of both of you for the efforts that we put in, and you may have seen on some of the socials that we've hit a couple of great milestones the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, a couple of big numbers.
Absolutely amazed by everybody. We finally reached 10 people who've listened to this podcast, and we are so unbelievably grateful.
Thank you to whoever those 10 people are. We love you.
All 10 plays my mum has given us. She will only listen to every other episode because she doesn't want to hear us that much. But we are truly appreciative.
We love you for it.
And we'll be back.
I think 2 weeks ago, I think I tweeted the YouTube link out to everybody in my phone, and I was just like, right, go here, watch it for 2 minutes, and then do whatever you want.
Yeah, just put it on and just put it on in the background and watch it.
Absolutely appreciate it. No, we want to just thank all the Florida State fans for joining us throughout. So
Also, I just want to point out, just want to point out that it might look like, oh look, Florida State have finally won a game, and therefore the Florida State jumper and the tops are back. These are unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, these were all purchased in that heady pre-week 0. Let's order loads of new gear. They turned up in between the last time I was on the show, and it's just like, man, why did I order so much FSU gear? I've got like 6 different things that turned up, and it's like, after the start of the season, it's like, can I send them back? And you know what it's like for UK, you can't send the stuff back. It's like,
If you'd have ordered them a week ago as well, they'd all be like 60% off. And
they'd be completely dirt cheap. Just take it.
Fanatics is like, just take it.
Fanatics would be like, do you want this? Yeah, here's $10 in credit as well. Yeah.
I bought an FSU mug and got a jersey with it.
Yeah. I was going to say, keyring and got the whole lot.
I think you can get Riley Leonard stuff 50% off right now.
Too soon.
No, I'm livid. Last week, I was quite content watching that game. And when he ran for about 40 yards and then dropped it on the hands of the opposition and gave him a turnover, having just run 40 yards almost to the house, it's like, oh, you bellend. You bloody bellend. Get out. Get off. Just, every time I think he's going to turn a corner now, he's playing all right now, he then goes and does something stupid. I mean... So
basically what you're saying, it's your fault, because every time you think that, it's your thought process that's causing this. Because I'm totally given up on DJ.
I'm sure it's my fault. I'm sure I have some mental telepathic connection with Riley Leonard. And if I do... I wish he'd listen to me, because I could do a lot better right now.
Really, you could. You should be doing a lot more if you're sending messages.
That's one thing people forget about telepathic connections, is it's all well and good having them, but the other person still has to listen and take that information on board. It isn't just a case if you have that, you send that message and they go, okay, I'm going to do what Nick says. It's just one of those.
One of those. Got to put up with it.
The only person who I think hasn't given up on DJ lately is his dad. Have you seen? I needed you last week, Gary, because I needed to bring it up to someone here. Did you see his dad going off in a Twitter space and threatening to meet people in Florida?
He has been going off on Twitter basically since the beginning of the season, saying he's there for his boy, live it, breathe it, whatever else. Love the guy for his support and his unwavering whatever's. But yeah, I think he kind of felt vindicated last week, even though we barely scraped the win, and I think one touchdown and like 160 plus yard. Anyway, at least it was positive yardage. He did throw the ball forward.
Yeah.
So small wins.
I can't lie. Sometimes it can be a cesspool. At times it can be great. At times Twitter has its moments still. And one of my greatest comments of all time I've seen on this app is the video of his dad going, and I mean, like I say, threatening to turn up and
blow people up and take people out, and
he said, so one of my favourite comments of all time has to be, "You better watch out because his dad will turn up." And he said, "Well, if he throws hands like his son throws footballs, I think I'll be fine."
It was calling out for it though, wasn't it?
It really was. It felt like charity.
Yeah.
If it feels like charity and it looks like charity, it's charity. But that being said, let's get into some of this week's news that's happened over the last few days. I do believe that I came to the table. Just before
we move into news, can I just say, I want to thank very much the special person that sent me Landy's Sports College Football Edition, the preview edition. Yes, it's a few months out of date, but it doesn't matter. I thank that person very greatly. It's come all the way from Georgia, so thank you very much to that person.
That this one, Nick. Which one did you get?
Yeah, but I've got the Alabama and Georgia Bulldogs cover and that because it's come out of Georgia.
Yeah.
So
got you.
I did want the Notre Dame cover, but hey.
It's not college, but it's football. It's not college, but it's football. This has come to me from Georgia last week.
Nice.
One of my friends, our good old Chapman from the Asleep at Work Network, unheard of the line. He went over to Georgia and brought me that back. Also grateful. Not college football related, but still. I also have something that came all the way from Georgia. That being said, I brought two pieces of news to the table this week. So very proud of myself. We're actually bringing news to the table, and Nick's only gone and gotten both in his collection anyway of news. Can you please let us know the news for this week, Nick?
Right. For those that don't know, Matt Sluka is the quarterback for the University Nevada of Las Vegas, or University of Las Vegas in Nevada. He has decided that he is going to redshirt for the remainder of the season. He's entitled to do so under the rules. He has every right to. The reason he's doing this is over an NIL dispute. Now, we did a big thing at the beginning of the season before the football started, and when we got started, we talked about NIL money and how big it's going to be and how it's going to change not just the face of college football, but it's going to change the face of the NFL, because if players are earning money in college football, they have no quick desire to get to the NFL, and so they can stay and earn more money and play a few more college years. I mean, you look at someone like Michael Penix, who's already 28, 29, nearly collecting his pension.
28, yeah.
Yeah, he's nearly collecting his pension. But he stayed in college. Yeah, he stayed in college that long. If he'd been earning NIL money, he'd quite have a mint. But so the reason Matt Sluka's done this is apparently he says that the offensive coach of the university promised him $100,000 in NIL money. He's been paid a grand total. Yes, to move
across
what was his
literally across country. Yeah,
yeah. And he did that on what he was told would be $100,000 NIL payment. He's received $3,000. That's all he's received. Prior to him redshirting, the agreement was they would pay him $3,000 a month. So he's not very happy, and so that's why he's redshirted. He said that he's going to transfer and not play for Nevada again. Again, that's his entitlement. If he wants to transfer out, he has every right to. But I think the big thing here is this the lightning rod that lights everything up? Or is it just sort of one single event? Because this is the way the NIL is going to go. Are players going to keep turning around and saying, well, you're not paying me what you promised me, so I'm going to go elsewhere? Or is it going to just bring the whole system down? Now, the university is saying that he wasn't promised any money. So he's saying he was. They're saying he wasn't. He said, she said. Chances are the truth is probably in the middle somewhere. It's probably somewhere in the middle. It always is between two statements. And that's where we are. So, I think it's quite a interesting subject going forward as to what is this going to be a one-off or is this going to open the floodgates?
Didn't the same thing happen with Jaden Rashada earlier this year? And he was suing. Was it Florida? Billy Napier.
One of the Florida ones. I can't think it was either Florida or University of Miami. I think it was Florida.
It was because Billy Napier was named, I think, in the lawsuit. But so this isn't the first one. I think this is the first one, I guess, to happen during a season while it's being played.
And possibly the first one of a starting QB of a winning of an unbeaten team as well. I think that's adding a lot of highlights to
season. It's one of those things. And I read his the release that he put out on his own social media that said it was after after numerous discussions held with the school, he realized he wasn't asking for more money like some people have claimed. He wasn't asking for this. He wasn't asking for that. He was as far as he claims, he was promised this money. He held conversations when it wasn't paid and kind of came to the realization, I'm not going to get this money. So made the decision that he's made as it stands. Like you say, I don't think we can make a comment onto the accuracy of either team or party's accuracy in their information. But yeah, just to kind of give clarification, I guess, on some of the other points that have been made.
Hang on, I'm confused. Sorry, just doing it. Live breaking news 33 minutes ago. Now, I don't know if this is him coming out in support for his QB, but the UNLV running back has just tweeted, after 3 games, I've decided to utilize my red shirt and enter the portal at the end of the season. Now, I'm not sure if that's a captain my captain kind of tweet, but Michael Allen, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas running back, has just tweeted that he's also redshirting his junior year.
Not a great position right now to be in if you are UNLV.
No.
But I think to answer the question that you're actually bringing forward, Nick.
Oh! But professional link.
Yeah,
answer the question.
I mean, that kind of... in truth, that kind of answers my question, because you've then got a second player straight away turning around saying, I'm going to redshirt. So, yes, it's the same school, but you've now got a second player in the last half an hour come out and say, I'm going to redshirt. So, this to me is not a single incident. I think this is going to light the fires.
No,
it's going to light the touch paper a bit, isn't it? Yeah.
But I do think, and this is something that we have said, and after holding conversations with numerous people in the States who are both for and against, one thing that everyone can seem to agree on at the moment is whether you're for or against, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But what we need is some appropriate regulation that goes on. You will never get all 50 states to agree on what that regulation is going to be. So you're probably going to have to allow the leniency of some states. Florida are going to be a bit more lenient in go make your money, man. Go make your money. Your northern states particularly like say your northeastern, north central states are going to be a bit more a bit less forthcoming with the whole go make a ton of money. Well, but I think what we're going to, until we have regulation, we've always spoke about the regulation on behalf of the player. In the sense of, well, we can't go giving X player 2 million, 3 million. It's not fair on the player. It's not good for the game. It's not good for the... What we haven't spoke about is regulation on behalf of the schools and what they can and cannot promise or make claims about. You say the truth could be there in the middle. Maybe UNLV have been going, listen, we're in Vegas. We have deals with this. We'll have things. Maybe they spoke about deals I've done it before in various other businesses. I spoke about deals in progress that are definitely gonna happen, but just haven't got over the line yet. So, and then the deal falls through.
Yeah,
this is like the regulation would also need to come into the whole. Universities can't go round promising players the world and give it not obliging by that.
And you wonder also if the players probably need to learn a bit as well, because this story, as Nick says, it's an assistant coach promised this. It sounds a little bit nudge, nudge, wink, wink, under the table, Reggie Bushy type thing. The players probably need to get more savvy that, hey, if an offer like that is on the table or is mentioned, is it A, in writing, B, or is it from the head coach or the director of the athletic program, not an assistant coach of a data analyst or something? It has to, I think, and it probably is. I mean, I don't know. Maybe UNLV there's more of a problem, and it's symptomatic of that school. But I wonder if as we said, it's a learning curve for both the schools, the players, everybody's getting used to it. And the first season and a half, 2 seasons is going to be riddled, if you like, with these kind of he said, she said promises, suing them for this, that, and the other, until either it's regulated, which it sounds like it's going to have to be, but who's going to do that? Because nobody's going to trust the NCAA to do it. Just saying. I don't know if the schools would. I certainly don't know if the networks would, and I'm pretty sure the players wouldn't.
It would probably end up being on a state level, I think.
It would can it be, though? If it could be on state level, because look, you've got a guy who's moved from Massachusetts to Vegas to Nevada, across the country. How would you regulate that? Which state would be regulating it? The home university state or the... Yeah.
Yeah, we're told when you're growing up, you're told, there's that saying, if it's not in print, it doesn't count. Words aren't.
If it sounds too good to be true.
Anything. Yeah. If he's there, and look, I'm not going to sit here and say that the lads are an idiot for believing somebody, but he's young. He's young and ambitious and whatever else. But if someone says to you, oh, I'll give you $100,000 if you do this, right? The first thing I'm going to do is ask, right, put that in writing. Before I do anything, I want that in writing. Because if you produce a document that says, I've been promised this, it's not, it's word of mouth isn't worth the paper it's printed on. And that, I think he's probably been a bit naive and probably a bit brash in what he's done, but that doesn't make it right. And if the school especially if that coach has promised him that money, whether he was entitled to promise that money or not, that's not right on the school either. Now, the school may not even know that was promised. And this goes back to what you said about regulation. Now, I said at the beginning of the season about the NCAA not being fit for purpose and stripping it back completely, and maybe going with take sort of like an NFL format, with a two conference with multiple, 6, 8 divisions, whatever you want to do. And that's something I still think that the NCAA should look at doing under a whole new banner. And by doing that and bringing in a new banner and bringing in a new management system, you've got the chance to be able to cover yourself on NIL money. But I think these incidences of players redshirting and then transferring out, I don't think you're going to see that at Georgia, Alabama, Ohio, Tennessee. I don't think you're going to see that at the big schools because they've got the income. They're not going to be empty promising.
They can back up the promise, can't they? Yeah, they can back up the promises.
Yeah. I think it's these smaller schools where you're going to see these instances of players moving. Go on.
To put this in a crude way, I'm going to put this in quite a crude way. Some schools will tell you they've got a massive dick. Some schools will pull it out and whip it on the table and go, look. That's a very crude way of saying it, but the really? Schools with the massive dick, they don't need to tell you. They will show you.
Yeah.
And you will know. And I would, and again, just to kind of go back to the regulation comes from, if it's regulated to some sort, and this is where, even if you do that thing where whether it be the NCAA or whether you've been off the NCAA directly and just all the schools come to a kind of a conclusion that or the Power Four kind of make their own thing happen, you say, when they all come together, this is the agreement you sign, and NIL regulation is part of it, and they all have to come to the table and agree on it. Could take a long, long time, but that would probably be the desirable outcome, that is that all schools agree on it. However, that would mean at least you then got regulated in that as a chain of command. You have an agreement on who can and can't say certain things. So if you have if an offensive assistant is telling you that we have a $50,000 deal with X brand, you can just say, well, I'm not listening to you. You're not someone to listen to. But another thing I kind of wanted to ask you, because I don't know, at what age can players start talking to agents?
Yeah.
How old do you have to be to speak to an agent?
Yeah. Because surely he's got an agent.
But that's my thing to you there, and it's an excellent point that you bring up, Nick, is that if you're coming out of high school, okay, you're 17, 18, by the time you're getting tapped up by a college, you are 16, 17, and whatever star prospect that you are. And I want to kind of put this in perspective of, if I'm a kid from a small town in on the far outskirts, not even near the outskirts, like far out of a city, in the middle of, I don't know, Omaha. I'm just gonna throw like a town in Alabama that extremely rural. I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody here when I say this, but let's just say your education hasn't been the greatest. Your parents, their education, not great either, right? You're going now to deal with colleges and universities and whatnot who are offering you the world. It's not your parents. Like, with all due respect to your parents, they can't get that deal done. They can't necessarily. They just want you to go get whatever they think is just, oh shit, that sounds great, let's go.
Yep.
And I think, or some of them that are a bit more skeptical are going to be naturally, well, just don't trust anyone what they say and go to whatever. If the only people who will truly know, you either have to be in a city where you're surrounded by people who deal with this regularly. A lot of high schools don't deal with colleges a lot to know how to deal with them, or have coaches that know how to deal with them. Sorry, I know this is getting quite long-winded. You have to be in a city where you're regularly being seen by scouts. Georgia are regularly at your school. Michigan, Ohio State, they're all regularly at your school. This is where, for me, if you've not got an agent and someone who knows what you're doing, this is also an area where schools can continue to pull the wool over people's eyes and get one over on them and play some nefarious tactics to get people to come over and make some false promises where they've not got that person who knows what's going on to say, listen, don't just fall for it. This is what you need to do. When a coach turns up at your house and says, we've got this NIL deal, this is what you need to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's so new, and I'm sorry for the long-windedness of it, because it's so new and unregulated, that I think to a certain extent, even those at the top and some of those colleges and schools that do also don't necessarily what the best course of action is right now for it. And it's not until...
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it?
It's not until everyone's a lot more familiar with the game, and they're going to be a lot more low-profile ones of these, I promise you that one, where the students don't have the opportunity to say, I'm going to redshirt here. They have to put every bit of tape.
Interesting. Just on that, I just had to go and dig around a little as you were talking. It was like, where did he transfer from and to, etc., etc. He was at Holy Cross High School, which are 11-time Patriot League champions. Those are pretty good. They would have had, I would have expected, if you like, a career guidance person for their football team, because they must have had colleges with offers for their players. So that is a weird one. So that again adds credence to maybe Matt Sluka's comments, because you've got to assume, the football's obviously going really badly for Meg. You've got to assume that he would have been at least have some sort of career guidance or some sort of advice from someone in the know to say, look, if they're offering that, that seems a pretty good deal. It's a long way to go. But Holy Cross is a pretty good high school. They've done very well for themselves. 11 years they've been champions of the league that they play in. They must have had proper people around him. And it's not back end of the woods, and it's not back sticks. It's Worcester, Massachusetts. It's still... So I think something else... It does... I don't know. It's a weird one. It definitely looks like it's one of those, the first potentially of many.
Again. Right. So, I'm sorry, Nick. I realised... Sorry, what were you going to say, Nick?
I was just going to say, Gary said there about agents. A college player is not allowed to have an agent until he declares for the draft. Because until he is going to become a professional, he is not allowed an agent. They are the current NCAA rules. Now, you are allowed to employ an agent for NIL purposes, which is what these players are doing, and obviously what Matt Sluka's doing, because his agent is dealing with his NIL money. He's not allowed to have an agent to represent him at a sporting level because he is not a professional. Until he declares for the draft at the NFL, he's not allowed an agent. He is allowed an agent to negotiate for his NIL.
For his
business. Yes,
and
but he's
it
not
looks
allowed
really
an
good
agent.
on Equity Sports. Yeah. At the moment, Equity Sports must be slightly concerned of their reputation.
Yeah. Okay. I just got that gif of that. Do you remember that gif of the kid from the TV show? It's like an African TV show. It's business. It's business.
It's business.
But like this is again, you can tell by the episode that we had on this previously. This is a topic that you can very easily spiral down.
Easy rabbit hole topic.
Like we kind of have done already. One piece of news that you brought up that I want to get onto is the return of the pack. Return of the pack. So, we didn't coordinate that, by the way. If you're listening at home, we did not coordinate that. Me and Gary are just that good.
We're just on the same wavelength.
And we both just love R&B that much, clearly. Eggs come in looking like, what the fucking hell's going on here?
I think Ed always looks like that when he comes and talks to us.
Egg, I'm going to welcome you properly now, but I was going to say we were told by Egg that if the football he's at is really bad, he would turn up. And he's just looked and said, I'm going to go back to the football, lads.
He thought the football was bad, and then he's tuned into this and gone, oh my God.
We're 3-1 up.
How are you, Egg? If you can hear us.
3-0 up even. I've just come on to just say that the New Hampshire
coasting
are 3-1.
up.
That's all I've come to talk about, really. Now just come show my face, boys. The signal's dying, so I just want to come say hi. That's it, really.
Cool.
No problem. It's 3-2 now. Get back to it.
Bye-bye.
4-1.
So, return of the pack is what we were getting at there, if you couldn't quite tell.
Right.
The amount of people that have turned this off. What we're going to do is see on both platforms, like all of a sudden they get to this point and then all viewership drops. Sorry for that one. Return of the pack. The pack is back.
The
But
back 12, whatever we're calling it now.
with one condition very, very clearly. You have to be a team with state at the end.
It did seem they went big on state additions, didn't it? It was Oregon State and Washington State, and suddenly then it was Fresno State, and
Boise
it was
State,
Colorado State, Boise State, and San Diego
State, and now Utah State.
Utah State have joined them, but I do believe that is now 7 teams confirmed.
So when
everyone
bolted from the Pac-12, Oregon and Washington were given a 2-year because they have to have 8.
Oregon State and Washington State, just to carry.
Oregon State, sorry, yeah. They were given a 2-year grace period because you have to have 8 teams in the division to be considered a qualifying
functioning,
functioning
FBS
to get a
conference.
playoff place. Yeah. So they were given a 2-year grace period. So obviously what they've done is Oregon State and Washington State have gone and they've picked up, like you said, Boise State, Fresno State, Colorado. Utah State have just announced their joining. Funnily enough, University Las Vegas, Nevada, where Matsuko will leave, they are planning to join. Memphis, Tulane, USF, University of Florida, and the University of Texas, San Antonio, they all said no and decided to stay with the AAC. We had a big thing towards the end of last week on our text chain where we were hearing things about Tulane, and we were like, oh, right, is it? Tulane have said no, they're going to stay with the AAC. So
I'm surprised by that, to be honest.
They've got their 7. If the University of Las Vegas, Nevada join, that's their 8. They would have enough, but they could go and get more if they really wanted to.
Yeah.
So it looks like within a couple of months, you will probably find the Pac-12 is stocked and locked for next year.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because obviously as part of that, as you mentioned, the 2-year deal. The 2-year, I think there's also some, shall we say, hangover from the realignment where the teams that did bolt from the Pac-12 to the bigger conferences left a pot of money for those 2 teams left. So they can play under the banner of the Pac-12, and as long as they play under that banner, they can receive certain amount of millions of dollars. I can't remember. I think we spoke about it a few times. It's a fair chunk of money, but they have to play under that banner. So they've obviously used that money to tempt some of the Midwestern and the Mountain States and some of the better teams. To be honest, they've got some good teams. Boise State is it's a big plus point for them. I'm surprised that they haven't managed to, should we say, crowbar Memphis out of where they are, because if they continue on this trajectory of pulling bigger teams into the Pac-12, then the Pac-12 is going to be the biggest of the Group of 5 conferences and the best of the Group of 5. Because you think of the Group of 5, Mountain West, MAC, AAC. If the Pac-12 continue on their trajectory, they are going to, in effect, guarantee that conference a playoff place every year. Because, as we know, the best team in a Group of 5 is guaranteed a place in the playoffs. And if you're coming out of a Pac-12, which is a bit more, should we say, competitive, then you're going to get the winner of the Pac-12 is going to get that playoff place. So why aren't other teams jumping on it? I'm surprised that Tulane, Memphis, San Antonio didn't do it, because I know they come as a triumvirate and they've been talked about.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they've said no.
I think one great addition for the Pac-12, I think right now, was Colorado State, because I think it's not necessarily Colorado State in and of itself, although that's a great addition. But right now, while Prime himself is in Colorado, they have that rivalry matchup that when that's played at home and put on whatever Pac-12 network they've got and all that sort of stuff, that's going to bring viewers, because this year it was quite interesting because Colorado State were very willing to run the mouth before the game and bring in some of that viewership. Bringing Coach Prime into a stadium, all that sort of stuff is going to do nothing but, like, you can play on that with the addition of Colorado State. Now, when he goes, when Prime goes from Colorado, that rivalry will probably die down a little bit. The rivalry will be there, but the media coverage of
visibility won't be there, will it? Yeah.
But it's absolutely great. And I think my only thing that I want to say on this as of now, we mentioned this before in a group chat that we're in. Who's the sponsor going to be for it has to be State Farm or Allstate, doesn't it?
Yeah. It has to be State Farm. It has to be Allstate. It has to be something, an insurance firm with state in the name, the way that they're going. Because if it's not, they are totally missing the trick.
I tell you what, though, my room is in such a state. The Pac-12 have called me about it. I will say that
that's what Mrs. Fletch has been saying.
Yeah, to get me to tidy up, she says the Pac-12 will call in a minute, so I'll run around and tidy up and go, I don't want the Pac-12 to call me. Leave me alone.
You do wonder though. Why not target the 3 independent schools?
Yeah.
You know, if you forgive me for if I'm sort of, you know, not getting it, but
have you got your independent bias glasses on here?
No. I was more sort of like, if you have 3 independent schools that don't really have, I mean, they have a primary conference that they sort of align with, but they're not actually part of that conference. You know, so like, go on.
So I was going to say, you've got UConn and UMass, which are northeast. And if you're going to keep it somewhat the Pac-12, I know you're going to kind of mess about with some of that geographical location, but you can't go to the Atlantic and call yourself the Pacific 12 or the Pacific Conference.
Why not? The ACC have done it.
No, I know, but it gets a bit. I don't think they truly want to do that either. But also, as well, with Notre Dame, I don't think that's a step down for Notre Dame. That I don't think Notre Dame want to touch
for their football program. I don't know. I mean, because obviously what we're forgetting is the Pac-12, and this is the athletic program. So this obviously includes basketball,
football, basketball,
lacrosse, and the other sports as well. So,
but I'm pretty sure Notre Dame kind of tied in with a couple of conferences on certain other sports anyway. But I just think if you're going to go, particularly on the football route. Especially when we're considering football, if you are looking at somewhere like I say, UConn and UMass, I don't think they're going to even look at because of the geographical location, personally. But I also look at Notre Dame and Notre Dame, they want, if they're ever going to be not independent, and right now I think they're in that really weird place of, but they're benefiting from being independent while watching all the mess that's going on around across the whole of the FBS with all these different conference realignments and all that sort of stuff. I think Notre Dame are very happy staying away from that and watching everybody run around like headless chickens. Apart from the Big Ten and the SEC, they're not doing that. You're watching the ACC unfold. You're watching everything that's going on elsewhere unfold. I think, but if they are going to join a conference, they want one of a Power 4, and I reckon they would feel particularly close to the Big Ten, given especially some of the rivalry games they have already, if not the ACC, given the games that they play anyway.
Yeah, no, it was just one of those. I just thought, you know, if you needed extra numbers, you got independent schools there. You know, it's, you know, but I get what you say about geographical location.
Easier pickings. Yeah. But then you also think, you know, as we said, they've picked apart, you know, some of the Mountain West, if you like, and they've taken those. But Conference USA has to be next for an approach, you would have assumed, and as you say, all it takes is 2 or 3 teams from each of those. They don't need to take too many. Can you imagine if the Pac-12 got Liberty out of the Conference USA?
Yeah.
I can't see it happening, but that's the kind of teams that they should be targeting. If they get Liberty,
just one
it
of them.
is the best Group of 5 conference. You just take the winner of that conference to the playoff.
Did you ever watch the US office? When the Utica branch comes through and ran by Karen, and Stanley wants to leave and go to Utica because Michael Scott's a dick. Yeah. I have that quote in my head a lot when but I'm looking to go, if you touch a single hair on Kennesaw State's head, I will burn the Pac-12 to the ground. I will burn the Pac-12. No. It's a fair point, and you're going to have to, at least somewhat like you say there, though, you're going to have to make some sort of leniency with the geographical location. Colorado isn't exactly on the coast.
Pacific time, is it?
Yeah, are you going to just say, well, you're on Pacific time? That
opens it up a bit, doesn't it? It gives them a wider...
does, but I just think it's going to be one of those... You are playing a very strange game, and it depends what identity do you want to have as a conference now, because you can reinvent the Pac-12 completely with your identity and what you're about and everything you stand for and the type of the sports that you want to prioritize, and the Big Ten is known for having for defense and strong defenses and strong run games, and the SEC is known for just being great at everything, if I'm quite honest, for most
just being too damn good at everything. Yeah, damn them.
You can reinvent yourself, and I understand the questions, and I understand I was only kind of just saying, look, I just don't think this is why they won't look to it, but I think it's a fair question to ask, and a lot of options are on the table right now. But you can start to see where they're going at with it and what they're trying to get at with it. And at the end of the day, none of those also end with the name state, so probably not. Anyway, I believe there was one more piece of news. We're not going past the news yet.
We haven't even got out of the news, let alone it. We're 45 minutes in and we're still on the first piece of news. That says it all, really. And we did say the NIL was a big piece, and it is going to change up things. So
we did. This is what happens when Gary comes back and I'm here.
I know. It's all Gary's fault.
We don't know how to shut
Harold
up.
Perkins Jr. Tore his ACL last weekend playing for LSU. So he is done for the year, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that's not. I mean, you don't like to see that anybody, So, get better soon, Rodri. So yeah, nobody likes to see that, and that's his year done. So onward and upward for next year.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed he can get back from that, because that's not a pleasant one.
No, it's not.
No.
And that's my news. That's all I had.
No.
I figured the NIL would take us a lot, so...
Yeah. Well, that's appreciated. Thank you very much, Nick. And going on now, we'll try and get through some of the bigger Week 4 games. So I've got a couple here noted down. We've got all 4 of these were... Oh, wait, no. 3 out of 4 were all top 25 matchups. One of them was a top 25 / but just a very good game. We have Tennessee, Oklahoma. Great game. I stayed up and watched a good chunk of that. Then we had Vanderbilt, Missouri, which just turned out to be, again, a great game.
It just turned into a great game, yeah.
Illinois, Nebraska, which was a decent game, and USC, Michigan, which, again, a top 25 matchup all the way around. And biased, I may be biased, but, again, a great game. First, Tennessee, Oklahoma. Did either of you guys watch much of it?
I watched a little bit, but not a lot. I started watching... with it being on so late, I started watching I was 5 minutes left of the first quarter, and I was struggling to stay awake. So I said to myself, right, I'll watch the rest tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow has been and gone, and I still haven't watched the rest, so I don't think I'm going to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a problem, isn't it? Sometimes some of those late ones, you're like, I'll get to that, I'll watch that back. And it's like, yes. It's the joys of a UK fan that it is, as you say, Sunday morning and you're trying to look at it and it's just like, you never get back to it.
Yeah. Right, if this thing would actually stop bloody playing up, and I'm trying to find I had it all up here. There it is. Tennessee walked away from that one 25-15 win over Oklahoma. Tennessee only have gone to grow and continue to climb up the rankings. One that I don't think many of us particularly saw being this good early on.
No,
Oklahoma got to feel
lower,
a little disappointed the way they're going.
Finding the new division quite competitive, I think, Oklahoma, aren't they?
Yeah, and they're now 0-1. They started 3-0, but now they're 0-1 in the conference. They joining Auburn, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State.
Auburn was shockingly bad against Nebraska, by the way. Did anyone catch that one?
I caught a bit of it. At this point, I do like Dylan Raiola and think he's a very talented quarterback, but there's only I can watch Patrick Mahomes. I just see a picture of Patrick Mahomes and I get what Raiola's either doing or trying to do or looks like while he's doing it.
Yeah.
So you've got that. So that was. Did either of you catch much of Vanderbilt, Missouri?
No.
Nope.
I picked up on the highlights and picked up on the storylines and the score, but not.
Well, Vanderbilt, Missouri, like I say, it turned out to be a very, very close game. One that, again, Mizzou is one that's been quite highly touted to have at least
I was quite high on Mizzou. I had them at the start beforehand, I think 12th. I think I had them ranked about 10, 12, somewhere like that. So I was quite high on them.
Well, quite a few people were high on them, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
Struggled a bit against the Vanderbilt that everybody kind of tipped to be a bit terrible. Vanderbilt were winning at halftime. 13-10. Mizzou went on to win 30-27, sorry.
So
13-10 at half time,
not the confidence building, clear cut win that
no
30-27 is not the kind of scoreline you would expect from that. That's one of those, as we talked about at the beginning of the episode lists. That's one of those ones where you expect to see 46-50-10 or something like that. It's one of those mismatches. That would have been what you would have expected. So the fact that they've eked through.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that, though, one thing Mizzou did better than either team, better, was they kind of dominated it in the run game. Vanderbilt, I mean, they were better than Vanderbilt both on the air and in the ground. But one thing that, they had 226 yards in the air to Vanderbilt's 178, 216 on the ground to Vanderbilt's 146. Now, especially on the ground, if you're controlling the ground game like that, it's always a very, very good sign.
It's a way out, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. If you lose after dominating stats like that, that's not good. Where did that go? Yeah, I'm just gonna. So a less convincing win for Missouri. Very, very hopefully uplifting result for Vanderbilt going forward. Illinois, Nebraska. I just mentioned Nebraska. Did either of you watch Illinois and Nebraska?
No.
I didn't.
Okay. Well, that's a game I actually missed and haven't had a chance to catch up on yet, so we can move on that one. The one other game, I'm sure I'm sure someone here watched it. The University of South California against Michigan. Did anybody in this room manage to check it out? Sure, one day.
Checked out a bit of this one. Jeez, that running back is good for Michigan.
Nick Mullins.
Whew.
Khalil Mullins,
It was
sorry.
Khalil
Nick
Mullins. Nick Mullins is somebody completely different.
Yeah, that great game.
Backup quarterback, Minnesota. What a running back. I mean, I know he's probably not your first choice running back, as far as I can remember. Haven't you got another guy there? But if he's your 1-2 punch, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I think he looks better than Edwards at the moment. I absolutely looks better than Edwards. And so, one thing we learned from that Nick Mullins is him. RG is not it's not all that much
Khalil
of an upgrade.
Mullins.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
I can't repeat. The RG is not the greatest of pickups from Davis. You watched the whole game. They did not. They did quite similar to what Florida State tried to do with DJ quite early on. Was just go, well, we just can't trust you to throw. So no,
just hand it off.
Any throw that he did complete was a lateral, was behind the line of scrimmage. The few throws that he did make forward, there were a couple where it was like, okay, some of them weren't easy, but if you've got to be a starting QB at a school like this, then you have to make them, and he just didn't.
You should be making those, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But USC looked great.
But,
USC did look very good.
I mean, it's a big plus for Michigan, right? It's a big plus for Michigan.
Yes.
But it's also, one of those, and I think it was Egg who mentioned it a couple of episodes ago. It's a good loss for USC as well. It's one of those strength losses. You lost it only by a very small margin. You look very strong, so it'll actually score USC highly. This loss, in a weird way, in the college football landscape.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a couple of the things that I wanted to pick up on, because I do want to try and get through some of this a bit quicker, given how long we took to start the episode. With the news.
Yeah, Nick.
FSU have got the first win, Gary.
Yep, lost him there for a second, but I think he might have started to say FSU finally get off the board with a less than convincing win. But a win all the same, so I'm going to take it. But it was a relief to finally see a win come through. They still look terrible. They still look absolutely dreadful. And if I could go back and review my who's going to win the ACC, I would definitely look to change that, because it's blatantly obvious that the way that they've recruited, utilizing the transfer portal, although everyone was quite high on the transfer portal and the overarching who they've brought in, it's obviously not working. Consistency's not there. The team isn't playing for each other or with each other. It's pretty poor overarching. So the fact we finally got the win is great. Might take a little bit of pressure off, but I'm not entirely sure how that sits right now. I mean, it was a conference game, so it bears fruit. It's weird to say that it's a conference game against the California Bears, but that's the new world we live in. But scoring a TD in the first quarter and the last quarter to eke past, it doesn't fill me with confidence. The defense kind of finally turned up, maybe, but that's about the plus points of it.
I remember when we were out in Ireland and we were sat there coming home, and obviously you just watched your team lose, so you weren't best pleased anyway. But if you said then that you're talking about it would be week 4 before you got your first win,
I didn't think it was that bad. I didn't think week 0 was that bad. It was a difference. It was an international travel. There were lots of things you can offset the week 0 match game, game opener against. But the fact it took us to week 4 to get our first win, when you consider, in hindsight, who we were going up against in the lead up to Georgia Tech, Boston College, really? Come on now, we should have. It takes to week 4 to get that win. The first losing to Memphis. I mean, I know we were, Memphis reasonably good in a group of 5, but you don't expect them to turn over Florida State at home. That's the other thing. It's been, at home as well. It's not been like
I didn't expect Northern Illinois to turn over us at home, but it happens. You just,
Well, it's, I suppose any given Saturday, isn't it? It does seem to be quite a few results like that are out there. So who did you call for the ACC?
Oh,
Stan, who did you say was going? Did you say Louisville?
No, I don't think I did.
I think you called Louisville. No, you saw Mississippi State or something, didn't you?
For the AAC?
SMU? Was it SMU you called?
I'll tell you who I called, because
I thought you called SMU,
I
didn't
might
you?
have done. That sounds familiar, yeah. Because, Fletch has got it all on a sheet. Yeah.
On a little something somewhere, yeah. But also on that, Miami are looking like as good as we thought they would. They have done well. They do look strong. They do look favourites for the conference so far. I think they've been playing the best.
Yeah. It's there are some games you watch some teams and you think, I didn't, you go in expecting those teams to perform, and they don't. And it's the NFL this weekend just goes to show, the Panthers go and beat the Raiders and everything. It's games not played on paper, and it's such a hard thing to predict. But it's one of these things that I take great difficulty when it comes to these rankings. Just because a team is ranked in the top 25, does that give them the right to be better than a team who's 4-0? If you are in the top 25 and you can be whoever you want, you could be Michigan, for example, seeing as Fletch has just turned up.
Mm-hmm.
Say Michigan are 3-1, right? Now, if another team is 4-0, you can only play who's in front of you. Yeah,
BYU.
You can only play who's in front of you. So if you play who's in front of you and you are 4-0, do you not deserve more credit than a team that's 3-1, regardless of who that team is? It's one of that, because I find that really hard with my rankings when I'm trying to.
I think that's
when you're trying to judge who's.
I think that's the problem. I think we have as a UK fan base, and I think because although we know college football and we possibly more than others, we still don't fully live the. Well, you might be 4-0, Duke, but you've only played, teams that you should have beaten. I can't hear you, Fletch, by the way. I don't know if you're on mute.
Yeah, I was.
So,
sorry.
Although you are 4-0, you don't get the kudos that you should, even though you're playing a team that's 2-2, because that 2-2 team, as we, for example, is USC, who have just lost to Michigan and have just lost to, I can't remember who the other team that USC, but it's that kind of thing. And I don't think we get that. We see 4-0 and we think, well, you deserve to be in the top 25 then, because you haven't lost a game. And we saw that last year with FSU. Hey, look, we didn't lose a game. We should be in the playoffs. And then people kind of went, yeah, but who did you really play? And they're kind of like,
we played everyone.
But we're 13-0.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, but you haven't played everybody you told us to play. We played and beat, but it still wasn't good enough.
This is something that I get, and actually, again, it's a really interesting one to get into. By the way, I want to apologise. The house Wi-Fi went for a minute. It wasn't my device messing up as it has been the last couple of.
Sorry, did you say the housewife or the
house Wi-Fi?
Just to clarify, because I know we've already wound your wife up by saying the room's a state, and now she's just like
the housewife's always in check. That's number one. Hang on, 3,
you better
2,
hope she
1.
doesn't watch and listen back to this one.
There we go. Love you.
Cut that out.
Again, as much as I retracted my Saints statement the other day, I do love Mrs. Fletch, and Mrs. Fletch is very much appreciated on. But no, like I made this last week, actually, and I'm a bit gutted that the episode messed up and we couldn't get it out there, etc. It does wind me up a little bit that a win is not a win, but also if you really think about it, even in the NFL, a win is not exactly a win. Some wins just mean that little bit more, even if it's the implication down the road. So you imagine, okay, I'm going to go back a couple of years ago when the Lions missed out on the playoffs.
I slightly disagree with that. Now Nick disagrees with it as well because he's so bad. I want
to go back to the Lions missing the playoffs a couple of years ago after starting 1-6 and then getting up to 9-8. We missed out. The only way we could have got in at the end is if I think it was the Packers. Well, there had to be a game that won, and then the Seahawks-Packers. The Packers would then have to beat the Seahawks because if we went in,
so there was some sort of hop, skip, and jump, and they had to beat them, and you had to.
The only reason if the Seahawks were at the same stead as us, at the same record as us, the only reason we wouldn't get through was because of the tiebreaker, because they had beaten us earlier in the season. That win alone, that was one win that got them to 9 as part of the 9-8 season, and one loss for us as part of the 9-8 season. But that win gave them an extra shot at the playoffs.
We
ended up beating the Packers and the Seahawks got in because we still couldn't get in past the Seahawks. But that win, so a win against a conference opponent, when you weigh them up at the end of the year, will give you a higher ranking in your seedings, in the playoffs. A win against a divisional opponent can go. That's more in terms of the implications later on down the line. But win is still, it's never always exactly just a win. Some opponents and some games just, even down the road, mean a little bit more.
Just count more.
In college, it's a little bit different.
I suppose it's slightly different. It's even more with college, as you say. It's got that even extra layer because some of the wins are against not Division 1 opponents, and that's where you kind of go, well, you should have won that game, so therefore it's almost half.
This is the thing, though, and it goes for me to show the disparity between the Power 4, especially the Big Ten and the SEC, but the Power 4 as a whole in the Group of 5 or Group of 6 or whatever whatever we're going to be, whatever kind of stead we're in now with them. We'll go with the Power 4, but it just goes. It's the whole what they want at the end of the year. What you want out of those playoffs is competitive, exciting to watch football games. You want games that are going to make people watch on the television. And with all due respect to a lot of these teams, if a 13-0 team from the MAC gets in, as much as we all love matching, everybody loves matching, and as I found out this week, even Andy Reid loves some matching. A MAC team and a AAC team playing against each other in the playoffs is not going to get you nearly as much as a 12-1 team, an 11-1 team, a 12-1 team, a 10-2 team from the ACC against an 11-1 team from Big Ten. It's just not going to put the bums on the seats. It's not going to get the viewers in. That's what they want. So I think it's meant to be an assessment on who's the most competitive and talented at the end to give you the best football teams. Not necessarily the best records, but the best football teams at the end. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I think that's at least the direction they want to go in, to the outcome they want for the playoffs.
Yeah. They want, as you say, they want those bowl games, they want those playoff games to be competitive. I think they got I think it was 2 seasons ago. Was it TCU went 13-0 or something, got in the playoffs? Everyone was like, well, they have to be in. They're 13-0. They're TCU, they've done well. They've absolutely stormed it and got to the playoffs and got absolutely battered in the first playoff game. Absolutely, almost. I think it was a 50-point game or something, and they were slaughtered. And you could see that all the OTA and the college and even the networks were like, we can't have this again. This is one thing we can't have. And I think that's the whole expansion of the players. They want more competitive games. They can't have that. And, to counter the we should have been in the playoffs last year FSU thing, when we went to the bowl game, and this is where and everyone's like, well, you look at what happened when you went to the bowl game, you played Georgia and they got absolutely stomped. And you can go, yeah, okay, you get your point, but then you can also say, look, we had 13 players that went to the NFL draft and got picked.
Well,
none of them played in that bowl game because they weren't wanting to. So it's, again, a win doesn't count as arbitrarily, if you like, as we would like it to be. A 5-0 team should be in the top 25, but often they're not because they're a 5-0 Bowling Green, just picking a team out of nowhere. They've played other players, other teams in the MAC, or they've played FCS teams, and therefore they're 5-0. But they're surely really against, as you say, a Michigan that's 3-2, or something. It doesn't count the same. It's just a bit weird, and it's just one of the nuances of college football. It's why we love it, hate it, and it's one of those that keeps us coming back for more.
It's one of those things that I think at the end of the day, what you have to look at is who runs college football, and that's the TV networks. Why do the TV networks run it? Because of these games that bring in multi-millions of dollars. And I think, again, it's the reason the NCAA have changed the way that redshirt years work and what counts as a game towards your redshirt, etc. That they can turn around and be like, well, they can make these games they can make the bowl games more competitive. If you get into it, your team gets into running the playoffs, you can make these playoff games more competitive is by making sure they don't count against people's redshirt eligibility, etc. And it's one of those things. What does a bowl game win get you when you get to the NFL? Oh, in a apart from one more game of tape, which if you're going into the NFL now, surely all your tapes out there that you need to have, and you're getting ready.
Most players, if they're going to the NFL, don't play in the bowl games anyway, do they? Because they're doing the combine, they're doing the Senior Bowl.
So it's
a risk to their livelihood.
Exactly.
So most
so
of them
my question is,
anyway.
my question at that point is, what does playing in a non-competitive, what does playing in the Reese's Pieces Bowl, what does playing in the Kleenex?
Right, the Reese's
Bowl.
Pieces Bowl, isn't that now the? The thing is now they don't do anything, but now those Reese's Pieces Kleenex tissue bowls, they're probably the first round of the playoffs, aren't they?
But if
now there's something
if you make it something that counts towards certain records, it makes it competitive. You want to win a national championship. That is what you actually want. It's going to make those games more competitive, and less players are going to. You're going to want to stay and be competitive in playoffs. You're going to want to stay and play in a national championship or try and get to a national championship because you want that on your resume. You want to show that you can turn up in big games and all that sort of stuff. With that in mind, and it's a great conversation. And again, we've got lots and lots of great conversations that you can get into on so many different levels. Let's have a little look towards week 5 and have a little preview on week 5. There are a few bits that I had to also talk about on week 4, but it is what it is. We'll get into them on another day. Oklahoma State, Kansas State, a top 25 matchup. Very exciting game. Louisville, Notre Dame, another top 25 matchup that should be a very exciting game. Illinois, Penn State, and obviously, now the big game this weekend, we have Georgia, Alabama.
That is going to get a lot of headline. I think Arkansas, Texas A&M might be tricky as well. But anyway,
those are the 4 big ones. I'm going to try and bring at least 4 big ones, and the ones that are going to, I think, make the most. Again, we talk about the competitive games, the big games, the players that you're going to see next year in the NFL, etc. Those are the games of the top 25 teams. They're the teams that they're going to bring the most forward. Obviously, Georgia, Alabama is the one that everyone's most excited for. But you mentioned there, but any other games that you are looking forward to?
I'm interested from an ACC perspective. We've just talked about Virginia Tech quite a lot about how closely they ran. So they're playing Miami, and Miami, as we just talked about Nick. Miami looked good in the ACC, but how good are they? Will Virginia Tech give them a good game? So that's an interesting one for me from that side of things.
Absolutely.
BYU, Baylor. I mean, again, BYU have been getting a lot of love, but also a lot of why aren't they in the top 25? Should they be? They've just eked in now because they're 4-0. So kind of capturing everything we've talked about. And then I suppose from Nick's point of view and an ACC point of view, Louisville, Notre Dame, it could be a tricky one. It's an interesting one as well.
I'm very excited for that one because, let's say, Louisville are my ACC pick for this year, looking very good at the moment. No one's surprised by their 3-0 record. Yeah, because they've had a bye week already. Their 3-0 record. No one's surprised by that one.
Yeah.
That's going to have playoff implications. That is definitely going to be a playoff implication game. That's going to affect things like the ACC winner. Just in time to talk about this a little bit, I think. Here he is. Notre Dame, Louisville, sir.
Yeah.
Tell us about how are you feeling ahead of it?
Is Riley Leonard playing? I genuinely think this game could go either way. Both teams in that mid-packer rankings. It could be entertaining if both teams turn up and both teams play to their ability. I think it could be a really entertaining game. You look at something. I mean, you look at like a Georgia-Alabama game. That has the potential to go off, but it also has the potential to be super tight and be very cagey and not really sort of boil, come to the boil like you'd like it to. I think the Louisville Notre Dame is one of those games that could go either way. It could be really tight and nothing happens, or it could just be a gunslinging show of just point score. I know that I'm responsible for the AAC. One of the games I've got in week 5 is Virginia Tech at Miami. Because I really, that's by far and away the best game in the conference. So, sorry.
Called it already. I said that one, Nick, before you jumped in. I said I was interested in it from an ACC Miami look good way, but obviously and also Virginia Tech, as we talked about quite a lot, did run their previous game really close. So this is a good test for Miami and a great shout
great
for
minds think alike.
The AAC. Mm-hmm. It's just amazing, isn't it? Like Fletch and I were coordinated with our singing, singing, and
I call it singing. I will.
You call it singing. I'm not sure what others would call it.
I'm a sound engineer, so you've got to agree with me.
Oh, fine. I'm taking it. Yep.
No, that's a good one actually, and I want to say that Kennesaw State. I'm putting it on it now. Kennesaw State are getting their first FBS win this weekend against UT Martin. UT Martin can go and love themselves, as Justin Bieber would say.
Oh, you can go and love yourself, can you? Oh, interesting. I don't know. I think the Old Dominion Bowling Green, you've got to have an eye on that one.
I did call Old Dominion.
You called Old Dominion as your guys. Although, to be honest, the Bowling Green tight end's got to be the tight end of the season so far. He's ripping it up. Just a heads up there, if you're into fantasy, go and get your Bowling Green tight end. If you get him on the waivers, he's your man to get in. He's absolutely tearing it up at the moment.
One that gets me from the ACC and the Conference USA as well is Western Kentucky Boston College. Western Kentucky they got buttered a few weeks ago when going up against their natural real opponent, as you would see. But Boston College also hot right now. Western Kentucky on a hot, doing quite well at the moment. Boston College are favoured by 13.5. I've got the spread up here as, but I wouldn't put it past Western Kentucky to cause some problems at least. They are vying for hopefully getting up there towards the top as a
13.5.
That's a great question. I'm not going to provide an answer to it. I don't know.
I think what could be an interesting one is the Washington State Boise State, with all the stuff we've just talked about. A pre-runner for the next year's Pac-12. That's going to be an interesting one.
You got New Mexico and New Mexico State as well. That was not going to be a great game,
you can't beat a New Mexico derby.
You really can't. I mean, you think Glasgow? You think Celtic and Rangers was bad? You wait till you see New Mexico State. But I don't think it's going to be a particularly amazing game. New Mexico State are 1-3. New Mexico are 0-4. I think this could be a perfect example of what the youth today call a mid-off. But
get you down with the youth.
I am. Do you know what? I love being here because I feel like I am youth. I
also think the North Carolina Duke is an interesting one as well. But we're banging around and knocking around. There's a couple of interesting ones. The North Carolina, they look bad in their last game.
Terrible.
Really bad.
Terrible.
JMU ran all over them and battered them. I mean, it was. I don't think I've seen a score a game where 120 points were put up by teams together. But...
Cumberland would like a word, my friend. Cumberland would like a word. They haven't had a football team since the early 1910s, but they would like a word after they got battered 222-0.
They do make a good sausage.
Fair play. I mean,
they do make a fantastic.
They do knock out a good sausage.
It was a great example of why don't fight. Just focus on the sausages. Forget the football.
Yeah.
But there are some, and most importantly, and it is. Look, at the end of the day, most importantly, we have got Georgia, Alabama this weekend, which is always up there as one of the best games on the college football calendar, but with extra implications, as this is the first one in a long time without Nick Saban. Georgia looked
going to be different.
I'm going to say not very good last time out, and I'm going to be very nice when I say not very good last time out. But sometimes you see these games, maybe you do have a little bit of a bad game before you go on the road to Tuscaloosa. Because you are ready for that game if you feel aggrieved, if you feel like you've not performed at your best, and you get to go into Alabama with a chip on your shoulder. Whew.
Yeah.
How do we see this one going?
I think I think the biggest question of this game is going to be, what's Pat McAfee going to do? Because he blew it away. The amount of times I see that reel, on my social with him sort of bringing down the house with the Georgia fans and then switching at the last minute.
Go down.
And then he did it at the weekend as well. He did it at the weekend with Nico and the Schooners and whatever. And then right at the last minute, he turned on them. And I'm like, I want to know what he's got up his sleeve for this week. I will be watching Game Day very closely.
Do that again,
watching me closely. You can't do it again. It's going to get a bit too. Everyone's going to expect it now. Maybe he'll stick. I don't know. I think Alabama haven't been tested yet. Western Kentucky, USF, Wisconsin. They've not had a tough game. So have they coasted through their opening three? Maybe. Are they battle tested yet? Whereas Georgia, they've had a tougher opener. Clemson maybe wasn't that tough in the beginning, but anyway. But they did just, as you say, just scrape past the University of Kentucky. So are they feeling a bit, they've got a bit to prove? People have still got them ranked very highly because it's Georgia and you get ranked highly because you're Georgia. Do they have a point to prove? This is, the best time to go in there. It should be a cracker. It really should be. But I'm going to just favour. I think the Crimson Tide might just take this one.
So what you're saying is, give me Alabama!
Give me the Tide, Alabama! Roll Tide, baby!
Don't give a piss about nothing but the card,
baby.
Do Jalen Milroe on the ground, is that where it's going to come down to, do you think? As far as Alabama's game goes, is it Jalen Milroe on the ground?
think they've got more. I think they've got more to offer.
Also, going to ask Kalen DeBoer, do you think he's ready for this? This is his first welcome to Alabama.
This is a test. This is his prove it game, if you like. This is are you it? If he doesn't win, but doesn't get absolutely blown out, if it's a 39-37, or if it's tight, but he doesn't quite win, I think that's probably okay. It will be okay for him. If he gets blown out of the water, then questions will be raised and will be asked. I think he's still safe. I think his job's not under threat, but I think this is his first see what you got type game.
Yeah, absolutely. So
but I think I'm not sure. I think it's going to be the Alabama wide receivers who are going to be the ones to watch in this one. I mean, Ryan Williams is just flying at the moment. I mean,
so aware of time and aware that we want to kind of, I guess, disperse for the evening and spend evenings getting ready for work.
God, Nick needs to get to bed. He's got to get up in 3 hours. Jeez,
lazy bastard.
We don't want him falling. We don't want him falling asleep at work.
Lazy bastard. Yes, lazy bastard.
No, we don't.
Listen, do you know what? Actually, I'm going to go on this. I am so. All I've had this week is people saying, "Well, I know it's called asleep at work, but we don't want to be asleep at work. Then why the fucking hell are we called asleep at work?" I've been doing it. I was at my desk before.
Just a good set. Okay, but you have a desk.
Well, say desk.
Nick's workplace is kind of bigger than your workplace and moves a bit. And
I say desk. There is a portion where I have to do my workday at a desk. Don't get me wrong, but I admit HGVs. I'm at slightly less of a risk, but don't forget that I nearly cut my finger off the other week. I had to do do an episode with a plaster on, so don't even act like my job ain't dangerous if I'm not paying attention, because I had to do it a plaster.
That's true.
Thank you.
Fair play. You did what you did. Battle through on. You didn't go on IR, but
no, I don't. Because
I think also isn't there some sort of legal stipulation to your job though?
Put it this way: it's a good job I had 3 hours sleep this afternoon. So, correct. Yes.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be working this morning. Anyhow, we digress, and we've wasted 5 more minutes of your sleep.
The next thing we hear of Nick will be an article that comes through the group chat. So,
yes,
I'm blaming us as well. I hope they never find this, and they're just like, this is why. Okay.
Destroy the evidence.
On that note, Georgia, Alabama. This episode never gets released.
This episode doesn't work. Technical problems.
I'm turning. Do you know what I mean? I'm turning on my what are they called again? My VPN as we speak. So as far as I care, this was happening in Tallahassee. So Georgia,
different
Alabama.
Time zone, absolutely fine. You got loads.
It can't be college football UK.
Call it in.
Georgia, Alabama. The spread is -2 in favour of Georgia. The total is 48.5, and Alabama are a +110 money line. How do we feel about those?
Georgia to win, Georgia to cover.
Really quick.
I should say. Oh. No, Alabama are winning. Georgia will cover the spread. No, they won't. No, they'll lose by more than that. Alabama will win, and it will be by a clear.
I was going to say Georgia are -2. They can't lose and cover the spread.
Can't lose and cover the spread.
That's not how spreads work, Gareth.
Doesn't know. I mean, you can tell I'm really au fait with the betting parlance. So it's like so what you're saying is Georgia are 5-6 on, Alabama are 5-4. Right. Okay.
Essentially.
Talk to me like that rather than spreads and +200s and whatever else. It makes no fucking sense to me.
Told you. It's because I'm down with the kids and you're
British. No, it's because you.
Because I've got a problem.
Anyway,
you're saying I've got a problem, and I
didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say you. There is an organisation that you need to speak to if you understand that whole betting spreads.
Yes, and that organisation will be Bet365 later on this evening. That
Other websites
are available. Gamble aware. Be safe.
Be responsible.
Gamble responsibly, children. Children don't gamble. Children don't gamble. This is just getting worse. I think I'm just going to move on it. It's going to move on it.
What did you say about it be good if this program never goes out?
Do you know what? Do you know what? Honestly, the amount of times I've turned around and said that, oh, no, you don't get us cancelled. No, you'll get us cancelled. It'll be me that gets us cancelled, damn it.
Wow. Anyhow, yeah, so as I say, my shout on that one is Alabama are winning that one at home.
What about you, Nick?
I think Nick says Georgia's got this one.
I just haven't seen anything from Alabama that says they are more than what you expect. You know, they've turned up and done what you kind of would expect them to do based on who they've, they haven't sort of like, sizzle. Yeah, they haven't sizzled yet. I just
set the world alight.
Show me first. Show me before I believe it. And so until I see it, and this might be the game that they show it, and in which case I'll hold my hands up and say, yeah, all right then. But until I see it, I can only go on what I've seen, and I just think, you know what? I think Georgia might take this. Because I don't think they're happy at being sitting behind Texas as well. I think they
no.
Yeah.
Nope. They've got a chip on their shoulder about that, I think, yeah.
So
coming in.
I'm going to say I have the deciding vote, and I think I want what we all want, and that's just a good, clean game of football. Just want a good, clean game of football.
No, don't sit on the fence, man.
We want the SEC.
Just sitting on the fence, you get splinters.
No, I think Alabama are going to take it, if I'm perfectly honest. I think Kalen DeBoer...
You don't know nothing!
I think Kalen DeBoer has his team ready. I don't give a piss about nothing but the Tide, baby. No, I think... look, one... there was a thing going around not long ago called Roll Pride, which was the most embarrassing things Detroit Lions fans have ever done within their lives, and this is a fan base who put paper bags over the heads when they went to games. This is the most embarrassing because they just keep drafting injured Alabama players.
Roll Pride.
Brad Holmes has a thing for injured Alabama players. I don't know what it is. They've so far turned out all right, though. I'll give him that. I think Kalen DeBoer has the team ready. I think, personally, despite... okay, they've had a bye week. Fair enough. Give them a biscuit for it. But Georgia's close shave last week, I think, will expose more issues than it will solve, or in terms of bits of inspiration or motivation that they can take from it. I do think that they run into an issue or two, and I'm sorry to Chapman from Hurdle the Line, and you can't take the hoodie back now. I'm telling you. This is, I think Alabama. I think Alabama will take it. Extremely close game that will come down to. It will come down to. The game will be won on the last drive. I'm not. Or the seconds maybe it'll be a field goal. Maybe not necessarily turning. They're not going to kneel it out. It's going to be a field goal, and then they're going to have to stop them on downs or something late in the game. But
you don't think it's going to be team whoever's got the ball last?
No, I think it's going to have to be. It's going to be one of those. Whoever has the ball last, more than likely, is going to be marching up the field with 45 seconds left and not one timeout type deal. Unless, in those situations, Alabama get a pick, Georgia get a pick, whatever it is. I think that I don't want to pin too much to Alabama and Georgia, and more just to the fact that it will be that close a game. I will go Alabama for the sake of it. Gentlemen, I appreciate you so very, very much for this evening. We have had one technical issue that hasn't messed up this whole thing, which is great to see. And I'll hopefully...
I love the fact that most of this was talking about news. We barely got to the football.
Well, we spoke about NIL deals, the Pac-12, and just encourage children to. We encouraged very nefarious activities within the youth today, which I don't think is is where we want to be.
Don't think it's the highlight of it. Shouldn't be, it's the three things that were highlights of this episode. I don't think that third one really should be in there.
I'm going to release it anyway. I'm not going to cut them out because nobody gets this far into the episodes anyway. We know it.
This is true. Most people have.
Yes, my mum watches every other episode, but she puts it on mute. So.
This has been fun. This has been fun being back with you boys. Nick, I hope you manage to get to sleep and don't chuckle yourself to bed for the next 30 minutes. I'm
gonna pass out and get me 3.5 hours in, and then I've had me 6.
No worries.
Good man.
No worries, gents. Right, well, I'll speak to you throughout the week, and we'll see you all next week.
Yep, no worries. See you later.
No doubt. It's been good. Cheers, buddy. Thanks very much, all. Go Knowles.
Does that actually want to fucking stop?